Good afternoon, it is the 4th of September 2021 and we're in the city of Rockhampton in central Queensland. Well, it's on the coast on the way up. It's not right in the middle of Queensland, but they say Rockhampton, central Queensland. Just out from Rockhampton is Yeppoon as well. Rockhampton has a population, this was of June 2018, of around 78,592. So I reckon there'd be probably that same amount or up to 80,000 at least, making Rockhampton the 4th largest city in Queensland. Rockhampton makes up an area of around 580 square kilometres, the whole area. There's Yeppoon as well. Rockhampton's one of the oldest cities in Queensland and in northern Australia. Well, it's really in central Queensland, but in 1853 Charles and William Archer came across what's known as the Fitzroy River. There it is there. Fitzroy River. So the Archer brothers came across the Fitzroy River, which they named in honour of Sir Charles Fitzroy, and the Archer brothers took up a run near Gracemere in 1855. Gracemere isn't too far away from Rockhampton, sort of southwest a bit of Rockhampton. And more settlers arrived soon after, enticed by the fertile valleys. The town of Rockhampton was proclaimed in 1858 and surveyed by William Henry Standish, Arthur F. Wood and Francis Clark. The chosen street design throughout Rockhampton closely resembled the Hoddle grid in Melbourne and consisted of a grid of wide boulevards and laneways, which was uncommon in Queensland. So there's the Fitzroy River. We're walking along Victoria Parade and we'll eventually go on to Quay Street. There's one of the radio stations. It's Triple M in there. 101.5 and hit radio in there. That used to be where 4RO was for years in that building. 4RO, Radio 4RO has moved further up along that way. Anyway, we'll continue. We might actually stick to this side of the road, it might be a bit better. So within a year, gold was found at Canoona and led to the first northern Australian gold rush. This led to an influx of migrants who quickly transformed Rockhampton into the second largest port in the state. And during this period, Rockhampton was nicknamed as the city of the three S's, of which were sin, sweat and sorrow. Subsequent gold rushes at Mount Morgan Mine, which was at the time one of the most productive gold mines in the world, laid the foundations for much of Rockhampton's Victorian architecture. As you can see, it's a really pretty city here in Rockhampton. Today, Rockhampton is an industrial and agricultural centre of the north and is the regional centre of central Queensland. Rocky is also a large tourist destination known for its history and culture, supporting institutions like the Rockhampton Art Gallery, one of the most extensive regional galleries in Australia, the Central Queensland University with campuses across 5 states, and the Rockhampton Heritage Village and Dreamtime Cultural Centre. It's also famous as the hometown of Rod Laver, one of the best tennis players in history, and we might be passing a bust of Rod Laver fairly soon during this walk. Rocky is served by the Rockhampton Airport, acts as a gateway to local tourist locations such as the Capricorn Caves and Mount Archer National Park, as well as regional tourist areas including the historic town of Mount Morgan, Yeppoon and the Capricorn Coast, and alongside the island chains offshore that include Great Keppel Island. Capricorn District is the traditional home of the Darumbal Aboriginal people. And the British colonisation of this area began in 1853 when the Archer brothers, Charles and William, as we said, were seeking grazing lands, arrived in this area. They were acting on information from earlier expeditions by Ludwig Leichhardt and Thomas Mitchell, who had explored this area in 1844 and in 1846 and noted suitable land for grazing. In January 1854, the New South Wales government proclaimed 2 new districts, Port Curtis and Leichhardt, roughly today's Fitzroy region, and the Archer brothers returned in August 1855 to set up their pastoral run at Gracemere. The Fitzroy River provided a convenient waterway for shipping, and that shipping was for supplies and produce, and the Archer brothers constructed a wool shed just downstream of a bar of rocks that prevented further upstream navigation from the coast. The rocks were incorporated with the traditional English term for a visit, and the name Rockhampton was first coined by Charles Archer and the local commissioner from Crown Lands, William Wiseman. So there's the Criterion Hotel, you can just see up there in the distance. This piece of history is not so savoury. In January 1856, after a massacre of local Aboriginal people perpetrated by Lieutenant John Murray of the Native Police at nearby Nankin Creek, some 200 Aboriginal men, women and children came to Canoona and began shouting at the employees of Elliott's. They were upset that a lot of their community were massacred. So they just thought that they'd voiced their disapproval and shouted at the employees of the Elliott's. Well, William Thomas Elliott and his men opened fire at random upon the group, which fled after a short time. William and an employee were wounded. The employee reportedly died, and about 7 of the local inhabitants were killed. Fellow colonist Charles Archer of Gracemere and a group of native police troopers later pursued these Aboriginal people toward the east and punished them even further. Local Aboriginal people friendly to Archer were also fired upon, and they killed one. So that doesn't go down too well for Charles Archer, does it? Permanent British settlement at the Rockhampton Township began in July 1856 when Richard Palmer travelled from Gladstone with an escort of native police under Sub-Lieutenant Walter Powell to set up a store. Powell arrived at the site first and conducted the native police barracks. This was the first habitable British building established at Rockhampton, and it was located on the south bank of the Fitzroy River at the end of Albert Street. So abundant grazing lands and waters from Fitzroy River and its many tributaries and lagoons, this region continued to expand rapidly. That's another shot of the Criterion Hotel there. There's a rumour of a ghost in that hotel as well. There's a bit of a plaque here. Sorry about the wind. In the steps of our forefathers in commemoration of the first Fitzroy River Bridge linking north to south Rockhampton. Opened this site 1st of the 1st 1881, closed the 28th of the 9th 1952. And there's the new Fitzroy River Bridge. It's not so new now. So conflict with Aboriginal people in this region continued and further massacres occurred. In 1859, John Arthur Mcrae attempted to stock his cousin's Belmont property just to the north of Rockhampton when a shepherd was killed by a local Aboriginal man. Second Lieutenant Frederick Carr of the Native Police, together with his troopers, the McCartneys, Peter MacDonald and Henry Brisden, formed an armed group which set out to track down those responsible. In the 1880s and 90s, seaports were established on the coast adjacent to the mouth of the Fitzroy River. Broadmount was on the northern side and Port Alma on the south. Railways were constructed to carry goods to the wharves and these locations. And the significant gold deposit at Mount Morgan that we mentioned earlier to the southwest was discovered in the 1880s, and Rockhampton became the main port through which the wealth of Mount Morgan gold was channeled. And due to the wealth of Mount Morgan, Rockhampton weathered the severe economic depression of the 1890s, and many of the town's substantial brick and stone public buildings date from this period. So we're just blending into Quay Street now. There's a walk down there, as you can see. I'll just take you down here for a little bit, down onto the river. We're in Rockhampton for those people who are just tuning in now. So here's the Fitzroy River. This is called Mcrae Walk. Jim Mcrae was a local identity in Rockhampton. He actually did a talkback program on 4RO. Then he ended up selling radio advertising on 4RO. He became, I think, a member of the council for a while, and he was also a salesman for Channel 7 in Rockhampton. And I knew Jim Mcrae. He was a very nice man. I also worked at 4RO doing talkback radio for quite a few years too. But this is the Fitzroy River. There's a lovely walk along the Fitzroy River, but I think I'll take you along Quay Street where you can see more of the buildings. Rockhampton, about 600 kilometres north of Brisbane. It's the Criterion Hotel. Windy today, as you can hear. It's real credit to the council here, how they've done this river bank up and this whole area up for the public. There's the Morning Bulletin building. It's the local newspaper. I believe it's in digital form only these days, although the Daily Mercury is going back to printing a paper version now because of competition from other people printing paper versions of papers. The Daily Mercury is deciding they're going to go back with their original paper version again. So I don't know if the Morning Bulletin will do the same. You see these lovely heritage buildings along here. We're walking along Quay Street in Rockhampton. When it's flooded here in Rockhampton, the floodwaters have come right up onto Quay Street and even inundated some of those buildings. Told you that famous tennis player Rod Laver, this is his hometown, came from Rockhampton, and there is a bust of Rod Laver there. Rod Laver, Rod the Rocket, born on the 9th of August 1938 in Rockhampton, tennis Grand Slam record, amateur 1960, Australian amateur 1961 Wimbledon, the first Grand Slam amateur 1962, Australian French Wimbledon USA, second Grand Slam Open 1969, Australian French Wimbledon USA, and I don't know whether I mentioned the Open in 1968 of the Grand Slam in Wimbledon. Rod Laver, unveiled by Rod Laver himself and Deputy Mayor Councillor Del Bunt on the 7th of December 2002. There we are. And just a little bit of history here. I don't think I'll read all of this. Born in Rockhampton on the 9th of August 1938, Rod was the product of a tennis family and was introduced to the game at a young age with his talent nurtured and fine-tuned on a clay court in Park Avenue, Rockhampton. The youngsters' grit, determination and work ethic caught the eye of legendary Australian Davis Cup captain Harry Hopman, who gave Rod the nickname Rocket. The Rocket took the American tennis scene by storm, winning the United States Junior Championship at the age of 18, and just 2 years later, Laver won his first major singles title. In 1962, Rod became the second player in history to complete the tennis Grand Slam, winning all 4 major single titles in Australia, France, England and the United States of America in the same year. He turned professional a year later and dominated the ranks of the US professional circuit, winning 19 consecutive titles before completing his second Grand Slam in 1969, first player in history to do so twice. The money in tennis has expanded quite a lot since those days, but Rod Laver retired from tennis in 1978 following a remarkable career spanning 23 years. And his list of accomplishments include being ranked the world's #1 player for 7 consecutive years, winning 200 single titles, 20 Grand Slam titles, and helping Australia win the Davis Cup on 5 occasions. Yeah, so there's a bit of history on Rod Laver, who came from Rockhampton. We're just coming up to Rockhampton's Custom House. Hello Richard Pratt, you say awesome show, as always colourful and very informative. Thank you very much. And Tim, good afternoon to you as well. That's Rockhampton's Custom House. That sandstone structure you can see just there. I'll see if I can give you a little bit of a better look at Customs House. So this is the site of the temporary Customs House, 1863, the permanent Custom House, 1879 to 1898, and the existing Customs House, 1901. Beautiful sandstone building. We'll just head up the esplanade just a little while longer. There's a lot more to Rockhampton than Quay Street and the riverbank and these heritage buildings. Rockhampton has a zoo which is really world class, and it's free, absolutely free, and it's combined with the botanical gardens here in Rockhampton. There's 2 botanical gardens. One's called the Kershaw Gardens, but the main botanical garden is the one that combines the zoo, and the zoo is free. It even got gorillas in that zoo as well. Lots to see, lots of bird life in that zoo. Even got some otters there as well. And another time that I'm up in Rockhampton, I may do one from that gardens area and that zoo here in Rockhampton. So you can see these heritage style buildings just go on and on and on all the way down Quay Street. All right, so we might just move on to just go around the block and work our way back down one of these side streets. I might even be able to show you the post office. It used to be the post office. It's not a post office anymore, but I'll show you the original building. It's now used for dining. Here's the Heritage Hotel. Rockhampton even has a decent art gallery as well. Before the major shopping centres came along, a lot of shopping was done in this street here. This is East Street. A lot of shopping was done on East Street. It still is, now that they've turned this into a partial mall. They've got the traffic running through here. They actually at one stage closed it off totally, but it wasn't working, so they've allowed the traffic flow back through here. All right, we're nearly at this building. I've got very low battery right now, so I'm hoping I get to show you the original post office building before I sign out. This is in Rockhampton, which is about 600 kilometres north of Brisbane. It's known as the beef capital. It should also be known as the heritage city as well. Hoping my battery lasts till we get to the post office, otherwise it will abruptly end. Okay, can you see it over there? There's a clock tower over there as part of the post office. huge building, huge sandstone structure. It's all for the post office. That entire massive building there on the corner. Used to be air raid shelters down through there, I believe. Okay, so there it is. I'll see if I can get you a bit of a look before my battery runs out, just of the building without some of those trees. There it is. As you can see, full of heritage buildings, full of history, plenty to see and do in and around Rockhampton as well. Thank you for watching. This is Explorer Man signing out for this afternoon. Please subscribe and all those things too. I really value you watching this. And for those catching this live stream later on down the track, thank you for watching as well. Bye bye for now.